Walking into an open house can be super exciting, especially as a first time buyer, but so many buyers get fixated on the wrong things. Today, I'm going to show you what really matters when touring a home so you can go into your next open house like a pro. To kick things off, we're going to start pretty broad and obvious before we even set foot in the door of the property. As you're driving up, there's a lot of observations, analyses, and judgments that you make leading up to that first kind of walkthrough. And these are all little things that are going to contribute to your judgment of the property itself. But also, it's really important to trust your gut when you're going around, you're driving to the property, and you see different little things throughout the neighborhood. Like, are there a lot of cars? Is it kind of noisy? Is it close to freeways? Or maybe on the plus side, is there a park nearby? Are there good schools in the area? What other factors could influence your lifestyle and experience living in this home? A lot of times we make these little judgments and we kind of let them slide and push them to the side. And then you get to the stage where you're more serious and you're writing offers and you write an offer, you open escrow on a house that you don't actually like that much. And that's an incredibly tough position to be in because these are all external factors that you can't really change once you're there. So before you even go to a place, I recommend you pull up Google Maps, go to the Google Street View and just look around. You can usually get a pretty good sense for what a neighborhood feels like just from that street level perspective. That's totally free. And you don't have to waste 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes driving there and back. And to take this to the next level, you can even visit the property you're thinking about multiple times in the same day or the same week at different times of day, because a lot of communities and neighborhoods are heavily impacted by daily traffic trends. So it's really helpful to get a better pulse of the situation if you're able to be there at different times of the day, and you can kind of get a better feel for the vibe of the neighborhood and the demographics there as well. Another big mistake I see buyers make all the time is getting locked in on the aesthetic, the decor, the staging. These oftentimes are just little marketing strategies that real estate agents like me put in place to draw your attention in and ultimately get you to submit an offer because you really like the way things look. And like obviously it works wonders if the aesthetic of the home itself is exactly what you're looking for. And this can go beyond paint, this can go beyond flooring and window trim and doors. These are all things that you could also change and customize while you're living in the home and ultimately craft it to your vision. To piggyback on staging, though, it's a really useful strategy for sellers to stage their homes because it gives the buyer an idea of what their furniture might look like. But as a buyer, sometimes those furniture pieces don't really match with what you already have. A lot of times people have these gigantic XL couches and they don't fit in the living space that is staged the way it is. So sometimes it's beneficial to write down some of the key measurements of your key furniture pieces so that you can go into the open houses with a measuring tape and verify that your furniture, your favorite pieces from your home are going to actually fit. So now we're starting to get into the weeds a little bit. As you're walking around that open house, test the light switches, close the doors, make sure everything that you want to be working in a home is actually working. You know, the lights should turn on. They should turn on totally fine. They shouldn't be flickering. If they do flicker, it's not always a problem, but sometimes it can be a sign of electrical issues. And then doors that don't shut properly. Sometimes it's just a hinge that needs to be reset. Other times it's floor issues with the floors warping. These could be very minor, easy fixes, but at the same time, they could let you in on potentially major issues with the home itself. Speaking of major issues, that kind of segues really nicely into my next point. As you're walking around, there's a few things that you should be aware of as a new buyer. There's four big ticket items as far as repairs when it comes to a home. And that's going to be your sewage, that's going to be your electrical, that's going to be your roof, and your foundation. If all of these things are in pretty good shape, then you're in a pretty good spot. There's probably going to be a few other fixes that come up on your home inspection down the road, but those are the big ticket items, and it really helps to put your mind at ease knowing that those things are taken care of. So, here are a few of those red flags you really need to look out for. One's going to be miscoloration in the walls and ceiling. This is a telltale sign that there's been a leak either presently or at some point in the past that maybe wasn't treated properly. And on the flip side, if you see paint in just one spot of the ceiling, that means there was probably a leak there at some point. So you're going to want to do a little more digging before you move forward. As far as the foundation goes, you can look at the floors, you can feel the floors. If there's any cracks or warping, that's somewhat of a sign. And if you look up at the walls, if there's a staircase crack going up and over, that's a big red flag that the foundation has been settling and the walls are shifting. Not to be confused with when paint cracks in a diagonal, which is usually a much easier, lower maintenance fix. As far as the electrical goes, look for the electrical panel, which is probably on the outside of the house somewhere, maybe in the garage, and the breaker box, which is usually inside the house somewhere. Look for those and get a feel for how old they might be. It's hard for me to give you a specific description of what to look for, but if it's really old and dated, you'll know, trust me. And as far as the sewage goes, there's not much you can do to test that up front during a tour, but you can absolutely ask the agent that's accompanying you for more info. And that takes me to my last point. If you've done all of these things and you think you might still be interested in this home, it's time to ask some questions of the agent that's hosting. Ask them how old the roof is, the HVAC system, and the water heater. These are all somewhat big ticket items, not as big as like foundation and electrical, but they're definitely things that you want to be aware of before writing an offer on a property. On top of that, have there been any recent repairs or major issues that have come up with the property itself? And just for clarification, it's always good to ask what's actually included in the sale. Sometimes not all the appliances that are in a home are going to stay in the home. Sometimes the seller wants to bring them with them to their next property. This can include laundry washer and dryer, dishwasher, fridges, freezers, the list goes on, but you get my point, and you want to be aware of everything that you're going to either have or maybe need to secure going into that move. Buying a home is a huge decision, but now you have the tools to go into your next open house like a pro. If you're serious about buying here in San Diego, I'd love to chat. All the best ways to connect with me are below in the comments and description. Be sure to drop a comment below if I forgot something and subscribe for more real estate tips. And I will see you in the next one.